Hello once again, and thanks for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm David Percy on this 24th day of June 2022. I'll be hosting today's show. And up first, we've got fire danger map, extreme up there along the Yukon River in the Flats area there. Pretty widespread, surrounded by very high fire danger that extends down, actually westward across the Koyukuk in toward the Kobuk Valley, as well as in the central interior. Starting to see some extreme, just faint shades of it there showing up in the central interior from mid-Tanana Valley out to the west and then down into the Kuskokwim Valley. Very high fire danger. High fire danger out into the eastern Yukon Kuskokwim Delta area, except right out to Kuskokwim Bay actually there. This for Spruce there for the high fire danger. Bristol Bay high to very high fire danger there, and that very high area expands and becomes more prominent as you move into the Kuskokwim Valley. Susitna Valley, some extreme fire danger over the northern Susitna Valley, and very high over the Kenai Peninsula area in the north up toward Anchorage, and very high down toward Homer, Anchor Point, those areas, Clam Gulch, inland areas there. Not a little down a little from yesterday due to the cooler conditions. And a little bit higher humidities that had come in from the marine push that came up the inlet overnight last night. Otherwise, the Copper River Basin starting to expand into the high and very high fire danger there, as well as the eastern interior, and that's going to continue to increase and become more in the very high to extreme fire danger by the end of the weekend with much warmer temperatures. Some of that might start actually appearing over the northern panhandle as well. Next shot here showing the marine stratus. This is Cook Inlet, a close-in shot. You can see Fognac Island there, and just the north end of Kodiak Island at the bottom of the shot, and then Anchorage, northern Cook Inlet up to the top. And you can see the marine layer that came in through the Barren Islands, and it was pouring into Kamishak Bay and then moving northward all the way up into northern Cook Inlet earlier today. Had fog down to a quarter mile at Kodiak, kind of came in there a lot sooner than I thought it did, and I didn't think it was going to get this far north in the inlet yesterday. Had some fog and low clouds into Kenai. That's since burned off, but that's responsible for the cooler temperatures throughout Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, and into the Anchorage area today. Even the Susitna Valley down anywhere from 3 to 7 degrees from yesterday at this time in some areas, but still pretty nice temperatures, warming well into the 70s. Up to the north area there, but lower 60s at Anchorage International Airport currently at 2 p.m., which is down significantly, noticeably from yesterday. And the next shot here showing the satellite loop, you can see a huge area of low clouds out over the Gulf of Alaska into Prince William Sound. Again, that pushed up Resurrection Bay right into Seward today, socked in on the east side of Kodiak Island. Kodiak State Airport was down to a quarter-mile visibility earlier this morning. That's improved somewhat this afternoon, and that area is sliding up into Cook Inlet. Probably be more extensive in Cook Inlet tomorrow morning, farther north, possibly into the southern Susitna Valley. Could see some low clouds. Otherwise, sunshine, becoming sunny and warmer over the interior today. And a lot of clouds out over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians system out there with front bringing rain and some gusty winds into the Pribilofs and the eastern Aleutians of the Alaska Peninsula. That's starting to push into the southwest coast, and a feed of moisture northward through the Bering Strait, and that kind of takes off to the northeast. We've got a system week's trough coming across the Copper River Basin, eastern Tanana Valley, triggering some thunderstorm activity over the Talkeetnas this afternoon. And also some rain up to the north there over the eastern Arctic coast at Dead Horse. Picked up about 1/10 of an inch at Dead Horse. Also with the moisture sliding northeastward, Kivalina also picked up 1/10 of an inch of precipitation in the last 24 hours. Otherwise, high pressure at the surface over the interior, keeping it mostly dry with light wind conditions. And that front bringing winds gusting 30 to 40 miles an hour eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula out of the south and southeast, as well as the Pribilofs today, with rainfall amounts not all that much, about 1/4 of an inch falling in the Pribilof Islands and maybe about 1 to 2/10 of an inch for the eastern Aleutians. That is now currently the rainfall trying to push into the Alaska Peninsula and heading in toward Nunivak Island, with showers back behind over the Aleutians. And then also some pretty gusty winds at tighter gradient close enough to the northwest coast there. Cape Lisburne had a peak wind gust of 69 miles per hour earlier today. Tin City gusts 41 miles an hour, but those winds drop off dramatically with just any eastward movement. No winds over the interior, pretty light and variable over interior Alaska. And drying out over the Panhandle today with increasing sunshine. Showers pretty sparse over the area there. Lots of low clouds and fog in the Gulf of Alaska into the east side of Kodiak Island. For tonight, that'll push back into southern Cook Inlet and then northern Cook Inlet later tonight. Isolated thunderstorms over the western or all along the Alaska Range into the Talkeetnas will be a little more widespread, but not too widespread. Continues to clear out over the Panhandle. Low clouds and fog possible anywhere along the coast, North Gulf Coast, Southeast Coast, spreading to even the east side into Shelikof Strait. The low cloud condition there. Small craft advisory level winds and rain begin to increase over the Alaska Peninsula from the eastern Aleutians, with some rain making landfall along the south or the Yukon Delta coast, maybe some showers in the Kuskokwim Delta coast areas later tonight. Rain, periods of fog and drizzle. St. Lawrence Island through the Bering Strait coastal areas. Lingering showers up over the eastern Brooks Range, eastern Arctic coast. And those are gone tomorrow. Just look for areas of low clouds for the Arctic coast there. Afternoon thunderstorms once again, sunny and temperatures into the lower 80s. For the Tanana Valley area, Copper River Basin, partly to mostly sunny skies there, with temperatures rising into lower 80s as well. Warming trend over the Panhandle, anywhere from upper 60s to near 80 for the southeast coast. Back to the west, got small craft advisory level winds, gusts to 40 miles an hour with rain, moderate to possibly heavy at times for the Alaska Peninsula into the Pribilofs, with a fetch of moisture bringing rainfall in across the Yukon Delta, Norton Sound, southern Seward Peninsula, up to the Kivalina, the Point Lay area. Otherwise, high pressure, light winds over the Gulf of Alaska and Northeast Pacific holds through Sunday. So sunny and even hotter. Central eastern interior Copper River Basin, highs in the mid-80s, 85 to 90 in the eastern and upper Tanana Valley area, and highs in the lower 80s over the northern Panhandle, otherwise in the 70s. Kind of get a big variation there with that low cloud marine deck right along the coastline, be significantly cooler there, Sitka down to Port Alexander, those areas, but inside water is looking really good, light winds and a lot of sunshine. And that rain begins to make a jog inland into the southwest interior. Could see an increase in showers definitely into the Kuskokwim Mountains, maybe into the Kuskokwim Valley, definitely into Bristol Bay and southwest Kodiak Island, with showers or areas of light rain northward through the northern Bering Sea, St. Lawrence Island to the Seward Peninsula, and to a lesser extent just some scattered shower activity over the western Brooks Range and western and central Arctic coastal areas, and a break over the central Aleutians. Those two lows too far to the north to really affect Adak and Atka, so a dry day there with light winds, but the next system spreading warm front type weather into the far western Aleutians late in the day. Lows tonight in the 40s, maybe upper 30s on the Arctic coast, but 40s to lower 50s over much of interior Alaska, mid 40s out over the Bering Sea. And then highs tomorrow, 75 to 82, central and eastern interior areas, mid 70s. Again, in the Susitna Valley, but mostly in the 60s to lower 70s, Kenai Peninsula, Matanuska Valley, down toward Homer, looking at a high of 67 tomorrow, 75 to 80 in the Copper River Basin, mid-70s over the northern southeast coast, upper 70s down toward Misty Fjords area and Stewart, mid-60s for Kodiak Island, and 40s to lower 50s out to the west. Lows in the low 40 to 45 for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, upper 40s Bristol Bay, mid to upper 50s through much of interior Alaska for the lows, and 45 to 55 south and east of the Alaska Range and the Panhandle, lower 50s Kodiak Island. And then high temperatures on Sunday afternoon, 80 to 85 central interior, 85, some areas might be pushing 90 over toward the east side of the state, toward the border there. Eagle forecast today, Sunday, to have a high of 85 degrees. And notice the lower 80s now over the northern panhandle, but out toward the coastline. 60s call it, with the marine low cloud deck near or right off the north coast, but mid to upper 70s down to the south, possibly even near 80 for Ketchikan, possibly over toward Hyder, or over toward Misty Fjords area in Stewart. Otherwise, lower 60s for Kodiak Island.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
And first flying weather graphic for the first day of the weekend, Saturday morning. IFR, Bering Strait, all of the Bering Sea, and clipping the Yukon Delta coast, covering Nunivak Island and up to the western Alaska Peninsula. But Bristol Bay, VFR, most of interior Alaska, VFR, all the way up to the Arctic coast and beyond. Some marginal VFR for the Seward Peninsula and northwest coast. And notice the marginal VFR up into Cook Inlet, all the way up into actually Knik Arm and Anchorage area. Maybe even the southern Susitna Valley might see some morning low clouds. Southern Prince William Sound, IFR in over southern Cook Inlet, Kamishak, Kachemak Bay. Possible IFR, southern Resurrection Bay. Otherwise, marginal VFR again up into the Seward area like this morning. And that low cloud deck hugs the North Gulf Coast and north coast of the Panhandle. Southeast coast, though, inland, especially the inside waters, good VFR, and that lasts right into the afternoon. Still north coast and the North Gulf Coast, low clouds and fog for some marginal VFR, southern Prince William Sound. And it looks like southern Cook Inlet, marginal VFR with low clouds all day long into Kamishak Bay, maybe Kachemak Bay, probably burning off there. Kodiak Island, marginal VFR and that low cloud deck. IFR, Sitkinak Island, Alaska Peninsula, all of the Bering Sea, all of the Aleutians, right up clipping the western Seward Peninsula. Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, interior Alaska from the Arctic Ocean down to south central Alaska and Bristol Bay, Copper River Basin, all good VFR. And for Sunday morning, marginal VFR back up into Cook Inlet, southern Susitna Valley, Knik, Turnagain Arm areas, but staying south of Prince William Sound, Kamishak, Kachemak Bay, low clouds and fog there for marginal VFR, so the fog won't be that extensive. Kodiak Island, IFR the southwest side, otherwise marginal. IFR staying in the Gulf of Alaska, that widespread area of low clouds and fog. But marginal VFR right along the coast to start. No change out west, solid IFR out there. And then for Sunday afternoon, marginal VFR making some headway eastward into the western interior, all the way across Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta into the Kuskokwim Mountains, Bristol Bay, southern Cook Inlet, marginal VFR now into the Selawik and at least the western Kobuk Valley, western Brooks Range, to up to about possibly Wainwright. Otherwise, central eastern Arctic coast stays VFR. Interior Alaska, good VFR right down into Cook Inlet. Panhandle, low clouds along the coast. Otherwise, inland areas, clear skies. And Anatuvik, VFR tomorrow for the passes. Brooks Range looking pretty good. VFR Adigan as well. And Lake Clark and Merrill, good VFR. Another VFR day for rainy as well as windy. And Isabel, good VFR. And Mentasta, VFR, looks like through the weekend actually for most of these passes. And Tanita, VFR. Portage, marginal VFR to start, and then VFR probably by late morning through the afternoon. It may stay VFR Saturday night into Sunday. For Portage, Chilkoot and White will be VFR Saturday night and Sunday as well as tomorrow. Freezing levels, upper level high pressure building in over the eastern interior, so we've got 10 to 12,000 feet there over the North Gulf Coast area in the Panhandle, 8,000 feet all the way up to the Arctic coast, and 10 to 12,000 feet over the southeast Bering. Icing, a lot of moisture with that southerly flow edging eastward slowly. Areas of considerable moderate rime icing, 8 to 16,000 feet, Alaska Peninsula, Fox Islands, all the way up to the Bering Strait coast, and some of that lighter stuff clipping the northwest coast, western Arctic coast. And for the jet stream, south to southwest flow, you can tell, you can see that's so that band of moisture is going to be wanting to push eastward there, at least into the western interior, Saturday night and Sunday. To a certain extent, upper high pressure keeps the eastern part of the state, central and eastern areas dry and warm through the weekend, except for the low cloud deck under the ridge in Cook Inlet, Prince William Sound, the North Gulf Coast. And 9,000 feet, you can see south to southwest flow, basically southerly flow, a little farther eastward into the western interior tomorrow, south 55 knots, Bristol Bay into the southwest interior, 45 knots south-southwest winds, northwest part of the state, light to the east, light and variable over the panhandle. 60 knot southerly winds right across the Alaska Peninsula, and otherwise 30 to 40 knot winds St. Lawrence Island to the western Arctic coast. Moderate chop Alaska Peninsula, western Seward Peninsula, and Cape Lisburne and Point Hope.
Why is plastic marine debris so common? We know there's trash in the ocean. Unfortunately, a lot of it is plastic. We find plastic everywhere, from the ocean floor to surface. The plastics are all shapes and sizes and all different types. We find plastics on beaches, and also inside animals' stomachs or wrapped around their bodies. That's bad news for our ocean and the animals that live in it and near it. It's also bad news for us. A recent study from the University of Georgia estimated that 8 million metric tons of plastic trash enters the ocean every year. That's like putting 5 bags filled with plastic on every foot of coastline in the world. That's a lot of plastic in the ocean, and it's there because, well, we put it there. The 5 most common items found during the International Coastal Cleanup are plastic cigarette butts, food wrappers, plastic beverage bottles, plastic bottle caps, and plastic straws and drink stirrers. Notice anything in common with those? It's a lot of single-use, disposable plastic. It goes without saying, we produce too much waste. That waste ends up in the ocean when we litter or don't recycle. Plastic is an important part of our modern lives. We use it for a lot of good things. But we need to take responsibility for how much we use every day and where it goes when we're done with it. The 3 R's can help, and it's up to every single one of us to practice them. Reduce your use of disposable plastic. That's anything you use once and throw away. Just use less. Reuse disposable plastics when possible. A plastic bottle makes a great coin piggy bank or watering can. The possibilities are endless. Recycle anything that can be recycled so it stays out of landfills, where trash can blow away. Ocean plastic is a huge problem that's only going to get worse. Unless we change our ways, we can do better for the ocean and for us. Why is plastic marine debris so common? We know there's trash in the ocean. Unfortunately, a lot of it is plastic. We find plastic everywhere, from the ocean floor to surface. The plastics are all shapes and sizes and all different types. We find plastics on beaches, and also inside animals' stomachs or wrapped around their bodies. That's bad news for our ocean and the animals that live in it and near it. It's also bad news for us. A recent study from the University of Georgia estimated that 8 million metric tons of plastic trash enters the ocean every year. That's like putting 5 bags filled with plastic on every foot of coastline in the world. That's a lot of plastic in the ocean, and it's there because, well, we put it there. The 5 most common items found during the International Coastal Cleanup are plastic cigarette butts, food wrappers, plastic beverage bottles, plastic bottle caps, and plastic straws and drink stirrers. Notice anything in common with those? It's a lot of single-use, disposable plastic. It goes without saying, we produce too much waste. That waste ends up in the ocean when we litter or don't recycle. Plastic is an important part of our modern lives. We use it for a lot of good things. But we need to take responsibility for how much we use every day and where it goes when we're done with it. The 3 R's can help, and it's up to every single one of us to practice them. Reduce your use of disposable plastic. That's anything you use once and throw away. Just use less. Reuse disposable plastics when possible. A plastic bottle makes a great coin piggy bank or watering can. The possibilities are endless. Recycle anything that can be recycled so it stays out of landfills, where trash can blow away. Ocean plastic is a huge problem that's only going to get worse. unless we change our ways. We can do better for the ocean and for us.
What is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch? Well, first, let's talk about what it's not. It's not a floating island of trash like a garbage dump or a landfill. It's also not the only patch. They exist all throughout the ocean, and the Pacific Garbage Patch just happens to be the most famous. Garbage patches are large areas of marine debris concentration that are formed by rotating ocean currents called gyres, kind of like big whirlpools that suck things in. A garbage patch is made up of tiny plastic pieces called microplastics that are less than 5 millimeters long. It's more like pepper flakes swirling in a soup than something you can skim off the surface. You might come across some larger items like plastic bottles, but it's possible to sail through a garbage patch and not see anything. And they're a big problem for the ocean and us. People often ask why we can't just scoop up all the marine debris in the ocean. And the answer is, unfortunately, it's just not that simple. The first challenge is the sheer size of these garbage patches. They're huge. They're constantly moving with ocean currents. And there's debris from the ocean surface all the way down to the sea floor. Not to mention all the marine life we would disrupt if we tried to just scoop up debris. So what can we do? Well, the ultimate solution is prevention. And we need to keep that as our highest priority. We can reduce, reuse, and recycle to keep trash out of the ocean in the first place. And we can participate in things like shoreline cleanups. It's a lot easier to deal with debris before it gets to the ocean. Because until we stop marine debris at the source, we'll just be cleaning it up forever.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at the coastal water forecasts. Out along the outer coastline tomorrow, northwest winds 20 knots on the central and south coast, seas around 6 feet. Lighter, more westerly winds on the north coast, 10 to 15 knots there. And for the Lynn Canal Glacier Bay area, south winds 10 knots, seas 2 feet. Light variable winds for the central inside waters. Clarence Strait, variable to northwest at just 10 knots. And then the outlook for Sunday. Central northern inside waters, north winds 10 knots. Northwest 10 knots for Clarence Strait. Seas pretty light or slight all through the inside waters. 2 feet or less, or 1 to 3 feet, or outright flat. Anyway, small craft advisories pick up in the winds along the coast. Out of the northwest, 25 to 30 knots on the south coast. West-northwest, 20 to 25 knots on the north coast with seas up to 8 feet. And for Prince William Sound, look for variable winds on Saturday at just 10 knots. North Gulf Coast, west-southwest winds at 10 knots. Barren Island, south winds 15 knots. Cook Inlet, south to southwest breeze 15 knots, seas 3 feet. And Kamishak Bay, southeast winds 20 knots with 5-foot seas. And for Sunday, Cook Inlet, south to southwest breezes at 15 knots with 3-foot seas. Southwest at 10 for Prince William Sound. North Gulf Coast, west-southwest winds 15 to 20 knots with seas up to 6 feet. In the Barren Islands, south winds at 15 knots with 4-foot seas, and southeast winds at 20 for Kamishak Bay. Kodiak Island, south to southwest winds 15 to 20 knots, seas 4 feet. And for the Saturday, Alaska Peninsula, small craft advisories. Southeast winds 30 knots, seas 7 to 10 feet. In Bristol Bay, southeast at 20 with seas at 4 feet. Small craft advisories for Bristol Bay on Sunday. Southeast winds sustained 25 knots there and seas around 5 feet. Alaska Peninsula, southerlies 20 knots, seas 5 to 8 feet. Kodiak Island, south to southeast winds 10 to 20 knots with seas as high as 7 feet. On Alaska Island tomorrow, small craft advisories. Southeast winds 25 to 30 knots, seas up to 10 feet. Unimak Island, southwest winds 10 to 15 knots. Adak and Atka, southwest winds 10 to 15 knots. And west winds of 15 knots from Mchitka Island to Shimia. And for Sunday, Shimia to Kiska, south winds 20 knots. Small craft advisories for Amchitka Island, southwest 25 knot winds there. Adakanatka, central Aleutians, southwest 15 to 20 knots. Light variable winds for Unimak Island at 10 knots and south to southwest winds at 15 knots for Unalaska Island. Small craft advisories for the southwest coast tomorrow. Southeast winds coming up to 25 knots, seas building to 8 feet. Small craft advisories for St. Lawrence Island, south winds increasing to 25 knots with seas at 6 feet. Southeast 15 for the Pribilof, south 20 for St. Matthew Island. And for Sunday, both Norton Sound and St. Lawrence Island under the influence of a small craft advisory due to sustained southeast winds at 25 knots. And also the Kuskokwim Delta Coast, small craft advisory, south winds 25 knots, southeast 20 for the Yukon Delta Coast, northern Bering Sea southward to the Pribilofs, winds will be south at 15 knots with 5-foot seas. For the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, Saturday, winds will be east at 15 knots, southeast winds 20 knots for the central and west side, and then from Cape Beaufort to Wales, look for that area, small craft advisories, south to southeast winds 25 knots, seas at about 5 feet. And a little bit stronger winds for the area from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort. South winds 30 knots on Sunday. Western Arctic coast, small craft advisories, south 25 knots. Central coast, south at 20. And for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, south to southwest winds at 15 knots. For tonight, eastern Brooks Range, eastern Arctic coast, few scattered showers diminishing this evening. Otherwise, light winds and mostly dry over interior Alaska. And maybe some evening thunderstorms over the Alaska Range, possibly into the Copper River Basin, but nothing too widespread. Low clouds and fog building back into Cook Inlet tonight, hugging the coast into Prince William Sound, as well as the southeast coast. Wind and rain advance eastward, especially to the Alaska Peninsula and to a lesser extent along the Yukon Delta coast through the Bering Strait. Tomorrow, rain, moderate to heavy at times through the Alaska Peninsula with gusty southeast winds. Rain moving inland across into the Yukon Delta, Norton Sound, southern Seward Peninsula. Sunny and warmer over the central and eastern interior, and even hotter weather, highs 80 to 87 over the eastern interior, Eagle, for example, and in the lower 80s for the northern panhandle.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.